check if it's on live on the other one.
I can see it.
I can see it too.
Do you have to press record for it to record, or it'll just record automatically?
I think it's going to
Do
record.
you
Oh,
have to press record for it to record, or it'll just record
so I
automatically?
think.
Do you have to press record?
Okay, so we are live.
Mm.
Hi, everybody. So we're just waiting for a minute and we will begin. Shall we begin, Louise?
Sure.
All right. So, good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm extremely privileged and honored to have this conversation with a friend and somebody who I learn a lot from. And before I introduce her, or rather, I'm going to request her to introduce herself. Let me just take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Fatima. I am founder of EvolveEd, and I'm a certified parent consultant. I work with teachers. I'm an educator. I have also been, I'm also humbled to receive the Karmavir Chakra Award for the kind of work that we do. And I think personally and professionally, something that I always look forward to and work towards is building beautiful relationships, whether it's home or classrooms, and to really simplify what these relationship means to children and to parents. So that's what I do. And today, and I'm of course joined by Louise. And Louise, just do introduce yourself.
Sure. It's such a pleasure to be here, Fatima. Thank you so much for setting this up. I'm very excited, very honored to be here. So, my name is Louise, and I am a systemic certified systemic listening therapist. I'm also trained in compassionate inquiry. I've been in India now for about 8 years, and I have a small practice in Indranagar, which is where I practice mostly the systemic listening therapy for both children as well as adults.
Lovely, lovely.
Mm.
So, you and I, when we were talking about listening, I think there's a lot of misconceptions and wrong ideas about what listening is. So, just to set the context up, especially for people who are watching us, the reason why we thought we should explore this beautiful skill and beautiful concept, I'm using it as I'm calling it a concept right now because I think there's so much to learn about it. Listening is very foundational. It's very primal, and I think that's what it matters. And also because I think as human beings we are hardwired for connections. So we communicate through words, but something that goes beyond words is something that children feel. And I think that also happens when they're very present and the parent is very present. So since we're very hardwired uh, for connection, in fact, if you look at it, that babies cry and they actually look for somewhere that comfort, and the way we present ourselves and the way we listen to that also stirs something within us. Am I right, Louise?
Absolutely,
And
yes, that
that's
is
something
correct.
that
Yeah.
happens, and it's also a
Mm.
way that we survive. It's I think that's one of the misconceptions that we have, and we somewhere underplay this whole beautiful idea of listening. Is we think that it's a social skill, but actually it's a survival skill, and it's one of those skills that are built very early in our life, which keeps us on the fight, flight, freeze mode. And I think Louise can vouch for that. Am I right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So it's important for us to understand exactly how vital the listening is, just as you're saying. Because when we are wired for connection, as opposed to survival, which is something that also has been promoted by the likes of Dr. Gordon Neufeld, Dr. Gabor
Mm,
Mate, we
mm,
understand how important listening is because of the connection. It's the
mm.
connection, because if without connection, we can't live, we don't thrive in life. So yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also because it's a very primal element of our survival, I think as human beings, we respond to not words, but we respond to the tone, which is so important for us. And I think it's not the listening of the words that is decoded, but actually it's the code, which especially in sense of children, they tend to kind of read the tone before they could actually, comprehend and listen to the words that's coming in. And that's something which I feel is important for us to know. And also, I think, to simplify it, listening is simply love. It's a feeling of love. When someone just listens to you when you're having a hard day, and someone just, non-judgmentally, with a lot of patience, with a lot of presence, giving you that time, giving you that attention. And I think that just equates to love, and that's how important listening is. And also, something which I have personally recognized and realized is that listening actually regulates the nervous system. That's something which I think you're going to talk about a lot.
Mm.
That listening actually regulates the nervous system. And when a child feels heard, or if an adult feels heard, it actually calms them down and puts them onto a rest and digest in a calm mode. And that is something which is so important for us. So in short, my dear viewers, I think listening is a very misunderstood, I would say. I think there's so much of beauty and so much of reconstruction that needs to happen, and that's why we are here. So, Louise, would you like to just start with what listening means to you? And as a
Sure.
therapist, what does it mean
Mm.
to you personally, professionally, and from your experience? Because I've spoken about me, what it means, but I'm very keen to know what it means to you.
Well, and thank you so much for saying that also, Fatima, because it's I think you've just expanded my entire reason for doing my work by bringing something in as beautiful as the concept of love. Because so listening, listening is something that, because I came from a musical background, was already sort of really built into my system even before I was born. In fact, we are able to hear even before we're born. 2 months before we're born, we're able to perceive our environment from an auditory standpoint. And so, babies in vitro are able to tell the difference between their mother tongue or foreign language. They're also able to show preference for their mother's voice as opposed to another woman's voice. So you can see the like there. I don't think nature has sort of didn't set that up without any good reason, that we're able to hear and perceive our environment even before we are born.
Mm,
When it comes to listening, what I understand it to be, of course, it's, we use our senses, our sense of hearing, but it is a way for us to be able to connect. It is a way for us to be able to understand our environment. And so, listening is something that requires us to be, if you want to be able to listen, and you spoke about our nervous system,
yes.
that ready it is a readiness to connect. That is
Yeah.
what listening really is. And in order for us to be able to connect, we
Yeah.
have to be in a calm and balanced state, and we
Mm,
have to be free of distraction. That is when we are truly listening.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So I think it's very important for us to be silent and give ourselves that space so that we could hold that space for somebody else. And maybe through that space, we actually listen to people. And sometimes, listening is just not felt by, it's not received only by the mind, but it's also something that's felt in the body. And this is
Mhm.
something that I feel when I am sitting with my daughter and she wants to say something to me. She's troubled about something, she's facing a challenge. And that's the time where a lot of A lot of times we have this urge, I would say, as a parent to fix things and to say things and say, just listen to me, listen to what I have to say. This is the way you
Mm,
solve the problem.
mm,
But what I have understood, and from my experience of being with my beautiful daughters, is just sitting with them and really going beyond the words and really listening and connecting with their emotions really matters. And I think the solution just comes from that space. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's it, it's important for us. And see, it is predicated on our own ability to be present, to be
Mm,
with. And so it really my work is focused on helping individuals to remove many of the obstacles that might be there for them, that impede or block them from truly being able to be with, to have a calm and regulated nervous system, to be
mm,
able to listen to what is being said, and also just to we need a nervous system. If it is in fight or flight, as you said before, then there are a lot, we're more concerned with our survival at that point. So we only take in a fraction of the amount of information that's being given to us in a situation, meaning it makes it very hard for us to be able to tend to listen, to understand, feel into a moment and what is actually happening, for whether it be a young child or whether it be a teenager.
right, right.
Mm.
So, Louise, this is something that probably we need to explore. Is why is it that, like I mentioned about my daughter and how important it is for us to listen, but why do parents actually struggle to listen to their children? So, what do you think are the psychological reasons?
Now, and that's a really good question, Fatima. And see, the way I look at it is, when we speak of it in terms of psychology, then
Mm,
what I'm seeing in the wider context of, the relationship between parents and children, is that children, no doubt, are beautiful, are a blessing. And parents have this monumental task of keeping this child alive, safe, happy,
yeah.
and and flourishing as well. And so there's no that in and of itself also means that the flip side of having a child is that they are, to some extent, a stress test, right?
Mm,
They're also going to be a mirror for us, as
mm,
well as a there are lie detectors, so to speak.
mm,
And those are things. So if you take that as the baseline and overlay all of the other struggles that parents are struggling with these days, work
mm,
work environment is only getting more fast paced. If we look on any other street, even if it's not Bangalore, it could be other cities, towns, even, you have so much of movement and activity, and there's never a point where we really come down and can rest. So we find ourselves in ever growing stressful situations, to then come home and say, okay, I'm just going to be completely calm and be present and tend to my child that is struggling, screaming, tired, tantruming, whatever it might be. So it's this is really, I think, what gets in the way of a parent saying, being able to even regulate themselves, to come to a
right.
place to be able to listen and be
Mm,
present for their child. I mean, and I don't think that is a how to say that, that's not something that, any parent that's listening in right now, or even if they're not parents, will tell you that's exactly part of the reason we find ourselves in a constant um solving, fixing, and fight or flight mode. We're always in a stress mode, like that level never really gets to come down fully.
right, right.
Mm.
And I also think that, when we are parents, we listen from the roles that we play. So we
That's a
listen
very
as,
good way of saying it. Yes.
so
Hmm.
because I'm a mom, I have this whole, impulse to fix things very quickly. And it's a very heavy role. Like being a parent, being a mom, being a dad, or a caregiver is a very heavy. role to play in your life, because like you said, we are taking care of their safety, their growth, their development, the success. And I think that heaviness in the role, we get so attached to it that we forget to tune ourselves to be a human being. And
Mm.
this kind of stops us from being empathetic, compassionate, and being present with our children. This is something which I have experienced and I've felt.
I think that's absolutely, and this is where, and I think you just hit on compassion, Fatima, and I think that's important because I think that our roles in many ways is to bring compassion back into it and to really reassure the parents that when you're feeling helpless or when you're feeling sort of like you're not doing enough, or this person is doing it better than the other person, or we find ourselves in a place where we recognize all of the hard work that they are doing, and that
Mm,
really the task that they're up against is not a small one. It's a really really vital one, and I recognize just how hard that is. And I think part of our job in many ways, yours and mine, is to present a to support the parents, and and by giving them compassion, and by recognizing just kind of how the hard work that they really are doing, which in many ways, especially for parents, they don't get a trophy at the end of this, and even if they got one they wouldn't care. But it's not that recognition. Okay, you're a parent, I'm a parent too, but we're recognizing just how much hard work they are doing, is what I'm saying.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
And I think one of the reasons why we find it difficult, and as a parent, to listen to our children is also somewhere the fear of being vulnerable. It's like, to truly listen to somebody, you need to tune into your own emotions and your feeling, or even that impulse, or the urge, or that restlessness, or even the idea of fixing. So, that sometimes I feel is very difficult to handle and regulate. And so, when we are not able to handle ourselves and that restlessness, we miss out on these cues which our children are offering to us, and we end up not listening to them.
That is very true, Fatima. And again, I'll always come back to the stressors that are in our life, and when we're trying to keep alive a child alive and fed, we also come up against. So we're already in a stress mode,
Hmm.
and for us to be able to then uh, see when the stress comes up, then the deepest held beliefs that we have about ourselves, our
Hmm.
competence, our value, all of those things we come up against. And this is why I was saying, children are a blessing and they're beautiful, but they are a bit of a mirror. So whatever deepest fears we carry within ourselves are the ones that also come up, and we come up with them face to face when we are when we are there, just trying to work with our kids. And so it's an added kind of pressure that we come up against. And what I would say is that it is also a lovely opportunity for us to step into that, stepping
Hmm.
into the fear, and
Hmm.
recognizing that, okay, this is where I am right now. I'm actually fearful right now, and that is where you have the opportunity to, if you're able to be in that space and sit with and even hold some of that fear, because you are the adult. So you are being
Hmm.
asked to hold the fear. And despite the fear, recognize that I am feeling a little fearful right now. I'm feeling stressed right now. You can even just name it. I'm feeling stressed right now. The moment you're able to do that is the moment that you're able to also step into a point of curiosity when it comes to what is my child doing right now, whether they're in the middle of a tantrum, whether they're saying no and no to everything, as the little ones will often do. It is a moment of
Yeah.
recognizing, if I regulate myself right now, and what I'm doing, and I've done this before with some of the kids that I work with, is I will recognize, okay, I'm a little bit stressed right now. And once I'm able to settle myself, I am a mirror back to the child. And that
Yeah.
child receives the signal. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, here is a regulated nervous system. I am
Hmm.
really struggling with lots of big feelings right now, and you're just able to recognize and hold your big feelings. And I hold it for us, and that is how I teach you. And that is the nonverbal aspect of communication, is that I am watching you, because 80% of communication really is nonverbal. If we think about it, it's like switching off the volume when we're watching TV, right? Is we're able
Yes.
to just observe. When I just give myself a moment. Okay, I'm recognizing I'm a little bit stressed right now. My little one screaming at me is not helping, but if I can give myself a few breaths, and if I can center myself, and I can do everything that I know in order to center myself, I can also recognize that when I calm myself, this little nervous system in front of me will also get the signal, get the message. Oh, okay, she's actually holding this, so it must be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So, yeah, so it's all about co-regulation. It's all about regulating that little nervous system that you said, but we
mm,
do it with our own nervous system. So I think that's something which is so important. And that's the reason why I think we do so much of work with our teachers and parents, is because I think listening is just not a skill. It's like speaking is just not a skill. It's something deeper. It's something more profound. There's something more that we don't understand and know, and we need to explore that, because somewhere listening is is the way we reach to another person's nervous system and their mind and the way they relate to themselves. Yeah, so that's so I'm just moving now to another question. So, because you've worked with a lot of children, and I have worked with children, but I'm really keen and curious to actually know, what are the signs that children give you when they feel that they're not heard, like they feel unheard, even though the
mhm.
parents might feel like they're listening to them. So there are a lot of times where parents come back and say, well, my child heard me. I told him, and he knew what I was talking about. Like, he heard me, but they don't hear it. You feel like something is missing. So, what are the signs that you feel like a child shows when he feels unheard?
I think when a child really is unheard, I mean, the most obvious one that that parents will always tell you is that they're prone to tantrums, they're prone
Mm.
to anger outbursts. And even in the older ones, even if they're looking directly at you, we all understand this. The nonverbal cue of looking at you and being checked out is that they're looking through you, looking past you. They don't have expression on their faces. They might be averting their gaze. You might be speaking to them very clearly. You think they heard you, but if you're coming, see again, if we're bringing stress into a situation, let's say we're being somewhat stern with the child, or the child has come back from school. All of the systems in the household are stressed, and so if you're talking at someone, I mean, even if any of us, myself, yourself, if we're being talked at, this is not communication. It's essentially a lecture. If I'm being lectured, then that we're not communicating. We're also not connecting. So nonverbal social cues would be, I'm looking past you, I'm giving you a blank stare. Again, smaller kids will be tantruming, and or saying no, or having an anger outbursts.
Hmm. And they may not also they may avoid eye contact,
Exactly. Yes,
or
averting,
or they may
averting. Yeah.
everything, yeah, or they could probably give you answers which is like one word, symbolic answers. They're
Monosyllabic.
just going to give you
Yes,
answers.
exactly.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
they might
Mm-hmm.
do that as well. And also, a lot of times, what I have sensed is that there's a lack of interest or enthusiasm. Like when you say something, there's a lack of enthusiasm, and because they've not really understood, and they've not really listened to, or they felt like they're unheard, like you haven't understood that side of the story.
Well,
Happens.
exactly. So if you're being lectured, which most kids these days find that they're just being told, it's just a series of commands. get up, have your breakfast, go to school, make your bed, whatever it might be, come back, have you done your homework? I mean, it's not exactly saying, hello, honey, well, how was your day today? Tell me about, what was the most exciting thing for you today? It's not a request to, hey, I want to see how you're doing. It's more of, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Because I have to go into a meeting, shut door, we're done. So, and it's all coming from a well-meaning place because of course, we all want the best for the children and we all want the best for the families, but sometimes we do go into this rote sort of just tick off all the boxes and make sure everything is done.
Right, right. So whenever I
Mhm.
do sessions with teachers, this is something that I always mention during my sessions. So especially when we're talking about communication and listening, like you said, we're talking at our children and we talk to our children, but we don't talk with them. We don't listen with them. So a lot of times when I finish my sessions, actually that's that you can leave them with the magical word, which is with. So how do we work with our children? How do we talk with them? How do we listen with them? And I think when that with comes in and we've understood what that with actually means, then they do pay attention, they make eye contacts, and they respond, they
Sorry, Fatima, I
they
just lost you
acknowledge.
for about 5 seconds. I'm so sorry. I just lost you for 5 seconds.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah.
No, I was talking about the with. I was talking about the
Mhm.
whole concept of talking with our children, listening with them. We sit with them, and because
Mhm.
that we don't know how to do it with them, because we're either talking to them or talking at them. We are not
Mhm.
really talking with our children. We're not working with our children. So when we truly know how to work with them, they will listen to us. They feel
Mhm.
heard, and we feel heard as well, because I think as parents, a lot of times we react, we get upset because we feel that children, even though that is not their primary role, but a lot of times as parents, even we feel very unheard. And I think from our peers or from our previous experiences, from maybe because of the parents, the social experiences that we've had, childhood experiences that we've had, we don't feel heard, we don't know what it feels. So because of that, we're not able to offer that to our children.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's unless we're very aware of these things, Fatima, there's really nothing there's very little that we can do if we haven't experienced it ourselves. From the
Mm,
way in which we mother the children in our lives to the way that we interact in relationship with others, this is all, and this is why this is so important. If you look at our interaction and how we present in our day to day, these are all learned behaviors. These are not behaviors that we were told. These are behaviors that we witnessed. And so
yeah,
that's the really important part. That there from there comes the adage, do as I do. Well, do as I say, not as I do. But in the end, what happens is that we are creatures that copy and see. Like, we look at our environment, and very, very little kids already are observing their parents. So no matter what
mm,
the parent is trying to tell them, or, they will see how their parents are responding in certain environments. And that is the thing. This is the thing that teaches us how to solve situations, how to interact with others. It's all from observation. We're all they're little mirrors of us, if you think about it that way, because you'll find children imitating like adult parent behavior all the time. So it doesn't matter so much what you're saying, because they see and they sense energetically from you as well. I always give this example to my clients when they come to me, and I say, and this is not a small thing either, is that if you imagined your parent standing in the kitchen or somewhere in a room, looking out, looking away from you, even with their back turned to you, as soon as you come into the room, Are they in a good mood or are they in a bad mood? You already know, you sense it, because
Yeah.
from lifetime, from years of growing up, you have a sense and you can tell, is there stiffness in the body? Is there, are
Mm.
they, you can just tell energetically that, oh, this is good, or oh, it's not so good right now. We're sensing these things. So no matter what you tell the child will still do what you do. And that's that an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, could you, Louise, give me an example, a practical example about how listening um, can happen without fixing? Because I know as a parent we will fix something, and I think even as coaches and counselors, we've been trained to listen and to really pay attention to what's being said and what we hear and how what we make meaning out of that, like what are we understanding out of what's the meaning behind that from our perspective and their perspective. But for children, as a parent, maybe how is it to listen without fixing? How does that give?
Mm.
Just give me a practical example.
So, um, when we listen without fixing, regardless how old the child might be, this is really, and this goes into even our adult relationships if you think about it. But when we're working with kids, it's really important to keep in mind listening is just, again, regulating ourselves to come into a situation
Yeah.
and understanding and being with the child without fixing is, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to sit here with you.
Mm,
If you feel, if it seems like the child needs to be held, I'm just going to hold you and I'm just going to say, oh, this is so tough for you right now, I'm so sorry it's so hard for you right now, I get that it's really hard for you, that's really tough. You sit with them. If they don't want to be held, you just sit next to them. I'm like right here.
mm,
It'll be fine, I'm right here. Again, the power of a well-regulated nervous system, again, the adult, and with a smaller nervous system that has no idea, but all of a sudden it's feeling really sad. And I don't know what to do with all this sadness and all this anger. And it feels so bad. And I don't really like this feeling. And then you have your mother or your father who is sitting next to you in your life, and they know how to hold all of those big feelings, all of that anger, all of that sadness, and whatever it might be. So then, and I'm so sorry. And so what happened? And if they're at that point where they're verbal, they can tell you what happened. And oh, that's so okay. Yeah. And then just be with them, because those feelings, those difficult feelings of anger and sadness and whatever it might be, that frustration of also not getting your point across, that frustration
mm.
where they lash out, sitting with, being with, it's going to be okay, it'll be fine, it'll be okay. Not wanting to fix it, you're just acknowledging where they are. When you do that, the signal you send them that are so much more powerful than words is that, okay, you are okay. These feelings are normal, they're not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how we deal with these feelings. So next time, as you practice this, as we practice this together again and again and again, you will now know how to, okay, I'm just feeling sad. I'm not sad. The world is not ending, but now I'm feeling sad. Now I know how to hold my sadness. Now I know how to hold my anger and what to do with it. And so
Yeah.
with practice, we become more sophisticated and we just become better at holding it. And once we
Yeah.
co-regulate, we're teaching the child to this on their own, and they become infinitely more well adjusted, more resilient by being able
Yeah.
to practice it in your presence without you making it wrong. Because in our best meaning ways, by fixing it, you're telling them that what they're feeling is wrong. And
Yeah.
that's the sort of the trap that we can fall into. Again, parents are all well-meaning for sure, no doubt. But when we tell them, see if you can sit with that. And again, it's a big ask, right? We're asking you to regulate yourself, and then we're asking you to be with your really, really sad kid or your really, really angry kid. and just be with them. And it's very powerful, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah. My father. I remember once when I'd gone up to him with a problem, and he said, "It's. I think if I remember right, I just remember this very vividly. Um, I went to a new school, and I couldn't make any friends, and nobody was sitting with me during the lunch table.
Hmm.
It was very sad. So I went and told my dad. And my dad, being, the parent that he was just trying to help me and sort things out in my head. He said, "Well, you're brave. You need to be more confident, and you need to take that first step and talk to people. Say hello to them tomorrow, and this and that." If I look back right now, because he did whatever he did, and it was the intention was good for sure.
Mm.
But I guess what I have missed out is it's taken years for me to sit with my own feelings. So the point
Mm.
that I'm probably putting across here is that when a parent sits with their child, just like the way you've mentioned, when they grow up, they learn to sit with themselves. They learn to
Exactly.
sit with their own feeling. They learn to provide that support for themselves.
Mm.
And Louise, it's taken me years. It's taken me years to really sit, and I'm still in that process. And it's so important for the parent to really understand this whole, like you said, hold that space and say, "I'm there for you. Like, tell me more." Even if the child
Mm.
says, "I don't want to talk right now," just being with that child, pausing with the child, and allowing the child to lead the conversation, not the parents leading the conversation, because that's where the role also comes in, right? So I think that's something that we need to really think about.
I think the what you touched on a very important point there, Fatima, and there's a method that you might be familiar with out of Canada called Hanen. And
Mm,
the bottom line for me, that this is how much I retained from it when I was back in school, is child-led. Everything is child-led. So even for
every-
little toddlers, you
yeah.
follow them. If they're picking up a block, you're just as interested in that block as they are. And that joint
Mm,
attention
mm,
is priceless. It's so important because again, you're signaling something. You're signaling, I'm here with you. I'm
mm,
connecting with you. You are the one that's important. I'm not telling you and superimposing something on you. I'm following you. And so in many ways, this is something that will help, definitely will help parents to just for a moment, can you do this for yourself where you just take a breath and you're like, okay, what is it that they're looking at? I'm curious
mm,
about what is it that they have their attention on right now? The moment you
yeah,
put their, the moment you put your attention onto something that is important to them, you're already signaling again, oh, okay, you're actually listening. You're actually interested. You're actually showing me and making me feel like I'm important. That's also very,
yeah,
that's vital for sure.
yeah, yeah. And also because, I think as parents, we want to rescue our children. We
Mhm.
don't want them to drown in their own emotions. We want to quickly fix them, because if we don't fix them, then how are they going to fix their lives? I think these are core beliefs, and I think social conditioning also plays a very important role, where it's difficult to really sit with the child to give them that space, uh, but easier to just fix things up and move on in your life. And I think this is, like we're like sitting in a boat, and we're just trying to reach somewhere, and we don't know. And I think as parents, we do feel that insecurity, and we feel like we are missing on the chance if we don't really allow that child to, sit with their feeling, or we sit with them, right?
Uh, Yes, absolutely. And you're what you're. I'm agreeing with what you're saying, Fatima. Absolutely. When the it is never, as sentient beings and compassionate and empathic beings, to see a child, in your own child, upset
Mm,
or struggling in some way is maybe the biggest pain that a parent is going to feel. And so
Completely
for
agree.
there is, there is no, I don't judge parents whatsoever for wanting to just fix it and make it better. 100%. Of course, I wouldn't want to just sit there. The trap that we run into, though, if you're just trying to quickly fix it and just make sure she's not crying, just stop her from crying, just she
Yeah.
shouldn't cry. And I
Yeah.
hear this from, I mean, I work, and I also am around a lot of children, and so I hear that time and time again, just stop her from crying. Okay, okay. But again, when a little bit more time spent now with the child will enable her and him to regulate themselves and to
Mm.
build that skill, because it is a skill. It is a skill to regulate yourself. And
Yeah.
so if you can pause and be with them, it'll take a little bit longer at the beginning, but it
Yeah.
will save you, it will save that child well into their adulthood,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
will enable them well into their adulthood. And see, and this is not something, I mean, I applaud every single parent who is working on this, who is in some way aware of this and understand it's really hard for me to watch my kid suffer. And you're like, yes, 100%, because that little child that suffers reminds you of you as when you were a child who was suffering, and you were going through this as well. No one sat with me, no one made me feel like I was important. I understand that. And the fact that a lot of parents come up against their biggest fears when, as they're raising their children, that is, again, not a small thing, and something that I acknowledge all the time. That I understand that this is hard for you, because the little, there's not one child here that's crying, there's two children here that are crying. Your inner little child is crying together with your child. So it feels almost it's almost too much to bear to see your child suffer. I fully empathize and I feel for that. But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can even practice that resilient, regulating yourself, you can practice it with your child, and both of you will learn and grow and become more resilient from that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've also seen a difference between a differentiation, basically, with the way we listen to a boy and a girl. So a
Hmm.
lot of parents, I've seen that they're very patient with the girls, but they're not patient with the boy. And of course, a lot of
Hmm.
gender beliefs comes in and say, you don't need to cry. You're a boy. You know, you need to just do your stuff. You're like somebody who needs to just keep doing. That whole idea of being, sitting with your emotions, being present to what you're feeling. They feel like it's very feminine, that the the yin aspect of it, it's like a feminine energy. And somewhere
Hmm.
parents don't want the boys to feel that, because they feel like it's going to make them weak and not strong enough to stand up for them, for themselves, maybe when they're challenging. So they're like, okay, don't listen, act quickly, and this is something that you got to do. And I see that as well between parents. And I think this is something that we need to consciously work on.
Yes, 100%. Fatima, this, I think this is definitely a topic that we could make 10 topics out of. Um,
Absolutely.
because,
Yes.
because it is such a big issue right now when it comes to gender norms, when it comes to how we perpetuate, what girls should be doing and can do, and boys should be doing and can do. The only thing I think that I would add to it, without going into it much deeper, is that coming. I think for me, an interesting part from a cultural standpoint is coming to India and understanding much more deeply, and having exposure to you know masculinity, femininity, but also how they live within all of us. And so
Mm.
when we look at that, I'm looking at a human being. I'm not concerned with their gender. I'm not concerned with, how they see themselves. I'm concerned with the person as a whole in front of me. And that
Mm.
person, like all of us, has access to all of the range of emotions that exist. They should not be categorized as feminine and masculine the way
Yep.
society does. What
So
we
why you?
want to is we provide the kind of space where we say everything is welcome. And that is
Yeah.
where the compassionate aspect of our work comes in. I'm not I have no interest other than to enable and support the human being as a whole, not
Yeah.
just a part
Yeah.
of them. And that is what's important, in our work, in my
Yeah.
works also. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an important topic that we can explore sometime. That listening is just not feminine or masculine trait. It's something. It's just being human being. I think that's something that uh,
Hmm.
we need to somewhere connect, digest, think about. So, Louise, I'm just going to move to, let's say, something very important is why is listening to silence and withdrawal as important as listening to words? So, when you notice that the child is withdrawing or the child is silent and not saying anything, when you're questioning him and you're giving him instructions, why is it that it's important for you as a parent to pay equal attention to that as well?
That's a really good question. And really what it comes down to again is nervous system regulation. When we recognize that the child is withdrawing, the child is silent, one of the things that comes into play is, we sit on when our emotion, when our nervous system is responding to a situation. What we find is we have several options that our nervous system is going to choose. One of them is going to be fight or flight. One of them is going to be freeze or fawn. And if they're becoming silent, it's possible that they're just frozen, or it's possible, yeah, so frozen, or they're choosing to, this is how their nervous system is responding. It's not a conscious choice, because nervous system regulation isn't always is often, actually not at all, completely separate from a conscious choice. So this is where I would invite parents, because these are responses that are there in all of us, but I would invite parents to recognize that, okay, she is becoming very silent. Give them a moment, pull back, just
Hmm.
give them a moment so that system can come out of it. It might be frozen at that point. There's really nothing you can do, because it's almost like short circuiting a system. They're not doing it out of spite. Maybe examine, okay, what is it that I'm making this mean? Am I making it mean that he or she is being defiant and thereby fomenting more anger within me? And so I get angrier. And so I had to force them. I force them to try and respond to me. You answer my question. No, take a step back,
Yeah.
check in with yourself,
Hmm.
go to have a glass of water, take a few deep breaths, come back, sit with, and
Yeah.
just see how they're able to come back to themselves, so that they see when you're frozen like this. One of the things that Dr. Gabor Mate talks about is being responsible. But I love the twist on words, because he's meaning be I want our systems to be able to respond to the situation. If I'm overwhelmed and freeze, my system is not able to respond. I am not response able. And
Hmm. Yeah.
so when you recognize, okay, silent withdrawal, okay, stop, pause, and just recognize, okay, that they might be overwhelmed right now. And it's not out of spite. And this is
Yeah.
where our own beliefs come into the equation.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
a moment for yourself and then come back, and then just as much as you're able to, also recognize, be with
Hmm.
them. If you
Hmm.
yourself need a moment, then
Take
see
that.
if you can take that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And also that silence or withdrawal is still a communication.
Yes, I would argue that silence can be so much more powerful than words. Because again, it goes into the nonverbal aspect of how much we communicate and how much nonverbal communication happens.
Yeah,
Um, mhm.
yeah. So the question over here is, are we listening to the silence? Are we listening to the feeling of the overwhelm that the child might be facing or experiencing? And I have so many stories to probably share from my own experience and what I have seen from the families that I work with. How beautiful that that emerges when you truly listen to that silence, the pause, and that sense of withdrawn, and give them that space and have that space. Because I think unsaid pain is still a pain. So,
Yeah.
what's not said is also something that needs to be acknowledged. And if it's a child, then they don't even know it's pain. So,
Mhm.
they don't even know. It's just feelings for them. They don't even know whether it's pain or what to do with that emotions. So even that unsaid pain, it could be rejection, it could be, lack of motivation or anger or sadness or guilt for that matter. Even not expressing that is also communicating. And I think as a parent, we can just learn to pay a little more attention to them so that we can help them regulate with that and not really fix it.
Well, and again, this is why I have a job because
Of course.
this is why we have our work cut out for us because that's precisely it. This is what the work that we offer, that I offer specifically when it comes to systemic listening, is that giving a system, whether it's an adult or a child, giving them the tools, resourcing them internally so that they can do these things. And I mean, and it's not just my work. I think that hats off to so many of the parents that are out there that are trying to find ways in which they can regulate themselves, whether they do a breathing practice like pranayam, or whether they do yoga, or whether they decide to take their daily walks that they won't that for themselves, so that they find ways, even in the smallest ways, even if they're listening to a nice meditation while they're driving to work, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
These days we have access to so much information, and I applaud parents when they're really trying to do this for themselves, because in doing it for themselves, they really are doing it for their whole families and for their children specifically.
right, right. So I think for the audience and our parents and teachers who might be listening, can you tell me a little bit more about systemic listening? Now, I have experienced it. I've gone through those sessions, so I can vouch for how helpful those sessions have been. But from a parent perspective, from all the conversation that we just had, the points that we covered, how is systemic listening helping parents to really be present and to listen? So I'm just going to allow you to talk about that.
Oh, thank you. So systemic listening therapy is a method that was developed by Dr. Alfred Tomatis in the 1960s, and it uses music and it uses technology in order to help with what we call auditory processing. So this is,
Mhm.
very broadly speaking, what is a sound and where is it coming from? I mean, again, very, very broadly speaking. And with the music, what we're doing is, so when someone comes and wants to work with me, let's say they come in with their child, let's say their child is having some kind of an attention deficit or anger management or some kind of thing, somehow struggling in school or even having dyslexia. What I do is we write a program for them. They come in and they listen every day, and they listen with specialized headphones. And what the music is doing, it's called gated music, and it moves between high and low frequencies. The high frequency teaches focus, the low frequency gives the signal to the body to relax. And in all of this, what we're doing is it is a bottom up type of approach, meaning we're working on regulating the system, and that well-being and calmness and ability to manage your stress then translates up into your okay, a sense of I can sleep better, I'm better focused, I'm more present. All of those things are, that's the beauty of the system, is that it teaches the body. I'm not teaching you anything, it is done through music. And I've been very fortunate to help a lot of people with this type of approach also, because many times the mental aspect, because we are so mental in the sense that we're always using our minds for so many different things. And for you to to be able to come in with your child, to just put on headphones and then just relax for the time that you are listening, and knowing that, okay, this is helping my child and I'm also getting support. And so, again, it's one of those things where my the work is so unique in that when I'm working with children, I'm also working with the families, because any benefit that the child is getting is anchored by the increased well-being and ability to manage stress of the parent. So this is
Mm,
why it's called systemic, the system of parent and child. They are intertwined with one another. They are inextricably connected. And by
mm,
supporting both of them, we are, also helping create sort of ripples of benefits for the wider family as well. Um,
mm.
and so that is what the listening therapy really does.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so
Mm.
much for that. I think because um, a lot of times, we get into a stage where we can't really do things by ourselves. Because I do breath work and I meditate very often, but there are times when I feel like I need that something extra, and I
Mm.
need somebody to hold that space for me. And I want to really allow my body to move from the unregulated space to a more regulated space. And I think music just does that, and because I've gone through it, so I can vouch for it that it's extremely beneficial and helpful. And yeah, so that's something about systemic listening. So if you had to, let's say, we just have about 4 more minutes, so I'm just going to allow us to kind of close the session. But if there was any message that you'd like to give the parents about listening, because I think everybody has their own ways of listening to children, to themselves, and the true and the deep listening that we're talking about, which goes beyond words, which involves presence, attention, and so much more. If you had to leave parents with, let's say, one or two things that they can start doing, and of course, see how they can get in touch with you. So that's something that we can also leave them with. But what would you tell your parents? What would you tell the parents? What is it that we can do?
Well, and I mean, I think part of it has already come up in the conversation, and maybe some of the participants, saw me perhaps doing some of this, where every time you see that you have an interaction with your child, if you're able to pause, take a breath, and just check in with yourself. Maybe it has nothing to do with your child. Maybe it's just about saying, I'm taking a little bit of bringing a little bit more awareness to my my day to day. So whether it's saying something like as simple as I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, even just that, putting your hand to your chest, checking in with yourself, how am I feeling right now? Naming your emotions as you're feeling them
Yeah,
is a powerful thing to tell yourself, where am I right now? Is
yeah.
this a good place for me to have that interaction with my child right now? Maybe not. Maybe I do need a minute. Maybe I need to move away. I need to go to the bedroom. I need to take a few breaths. Maybe I need to put my feet up a wall or my legs up a wall, bring myself down to the rest and digest, as you said. Or even just taking a few deep breaths where your exhale is longer than your inhale, where you recognize, how am I right now? If you do that, you've done so much. You've done so much already. And the benefit is yours as well as your child's. That's the beauty of it.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And
And
for
also,
me to get in touch, I'm sure there'll be a place for my website. The easiest would be just connecting through my website, which is sonam.co. But that would be the easiest way to get in touch with me. But that
yeah.
that you can do without anything else. You can just do that starting now.
Yeah, yeah. And also, a quick note that Louise is on board. She's working with Evolved, and she's a part of the Parent Support Hive team, expert team. So, where we'll be doing a lot more sessions, a lot of talks and workshops with teachers and parents on how to bring this beautiful aspects of listening, and how do you truly deeply listen to, let's say, your peers, your children especially, or in your classrooms. So we're really looking forward to having these workshops in schools, and of course with parents, you're always available to get in touch with us. We would love to hold that space for you, and you know what, we would love to listen to you so
Mhm.
that it's easier for you to hold that space and to regulate your own nervous system so that you can offer it to your child. Because I think listening is just not a skill. It's um, it's it's basically connecting you to being. It's about really understanding and connecting to who you are as a person. And if we really want to cultivate calmness, kindness, compassion and empathy in our children, then we need to somewhere turn the boats to us and turn that light to us and focus on our own feeling. And trust me, calmness and kindness, or maybe probably just not fixing your children and just giving them that, that vocabulary and the words, and we just vomit words and vomit that whole idea of fixing is not something which is weak or vulnerable. In fact, listening builds resilience. So that's something that I'm going to leave all of us with. So thank you so much, Louise, for this wonderful conversation. Trust me, it was just something that we just wanted to have. It was very unstructured and informal. And I really hope that, the viewers, it could be parents and the teachers, have taken something out of it. I have, for sure. And I look forward to having more conversation with you. So thank you so much for your
Abs-
time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fatima, for making this available to all of us. Thank you again. Been a pleasure.
All right. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye.